al-Zubayr ibn al-Awwam. And the sixth companion died the same day in a moment that is even more painful to hear. Al-Zubayr ibn al-Awwam was the Prophet's own cousin, and the man the Prophet gave the highest title to. He said, every Prophet has a Hawari, a pure, faithful disciple, and my Hawari is al-Zubayr. And at the Battle of the Camel, he too had withdrawn from the fighting after Ali reminded him of a statement the Prophet had once made. He rode away from the battlefield and stopped in a valley to pray, and a man named Amr ibn Jormuz followed him quietly without him knowing and waited. And when Zubayr went into prostration with his forehead on the ground before Allah, that man stabbed him from behind. The man who was the disciple of the Prophet, who carried 30 sword scars from defending Islam, died in sujud. And when his sword was brought to Ali, Ali kissed it and wept and said, this sword long defended the face of the Messenger of Allah. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Now the transition from those painful deaths brings us to the companion with the longest life on this entire list, and his final request is something you will not forget. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was the commander who broke the Persian Empire at the Battle of Qadisiyah, the man the Prophet offered both his parents as sacrifice for, and the man whose du'as were so accepted that the Ummah called him the answered. He was also the last of the 10 to die, outliving every single companion on this list, and he passed away naturally in approximately 55 AH at over 70 years old. But before he died, he opened a chest he had kept for decades and took out an old, worn woolen cloak, and he asked to be buried in it because it was the cloak he had worn at the Battle of Badr, and he wanted to meet Allah on the Day of Judgment in the clothes the Prophet ﷺ had seen him fighting in. But now consider the companion whose death began with tears over someone else entirely. Abdurrahman ibn Auf was the wealthiest of the companions, and a man who gave so much in charity that his caravans shook the ground of Medina when they arrived, and he once gave an entire caravan of 700 loaded camels in Sadaqah before it was even unloaded. He died a natural death in 32 AH at approximately 75 years old, and he died surrounded by comfort and provision. But in his final days, he wept while eating his meals. He said he remembered Musab ibn Umayr, who was killed at the Battle of Uhud, and was so poor that there was not enough cloth to cover his whole body for burial. And then he said, I fear that our rewards have been given to us early in this world. And he wept because he was afraid that the ease of his life had used up what was meant for him in the next. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah and the ninth companion left behind something that still moves people today. And it was not a battle, and it was not a sword, but a single decision. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah was the man the Prophet named Amin al-Ummah, the trustee of this entire nation. And when he was commanding the Muslim armies in Syria, the plague of Amwas began killing his soldiers one by one around him. The Caliph wrote to him urgently and told him to come back because he was too important to lose. And Abu Ubaidah wrote back, I am with an army of Muslims, and I have no desire to save myself from what is striking them. Therefore release me from your order. And he refused to leave. He stayed and served his dying soldiers until the plague took him too in the year 18 AH at 58 years old. And the final companion on this list is the one most people know the least about, and his story holds something that will surprise you. Sa'id ibn Zayd was the man in whose house the greatest conversion in Islamic history happened, because when Umar ibn al-Khattab came through his door with a sword intending to attack the Prophet, it was Sa'id's home and his wife's blood and a page of Quran that broke Umar completely and brought him to Islam. He carried that moment quietly for the rest of his life, known for his faith and his justice and his honesty. And when a woman falsely accused him of stealing her land, he simply raised his hands and made dua, and she went blind and died on that very land exactly as he had prayed. He passed away naturally in approximately 51 AH at around 70 years old, and his close companion, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, personally washed his body and lowered him into his grave. And that was how the last of these 10 great men was honored.